Mike here from Visit Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, and I want to show you guys the best of Lawrence County steaks. All right, now I'm not a food critic, so it's not my intention to go out here and bash places or something like that or put them in the best of. Now I'm going to say stuff like best of because it's my opinion. People want to know, where's the tourism guy go for steak? Who does he think has the best steak? So I'm going to put those in, but they're not like a nailed down thing, all right? So don't say because I say one place is the best, it's necessarily your best. So what I want to do is match those criterias and stuff to something you can follow up on. So if you like a nice country place, that might be your number one. If you like a really nice steakhouse where you have to dress up a little bit, now, well, we don't really have that in Lawrenceburg, or Lawrence County. So, but if you did, I want to show some places at the end where that might be possible just for you. So what I want to do is talk about how, and I had to take some notes, all right? You're used to that if you watched any of my videos before. If you have, thank you, you know what I mean? It says that I love steak, and I've cooked them for over 30 years. Now, I also worked for some of the steak houses, you know what I mean? Whenever I was in high school, everybody does that kind of thing. You go out and you find you a part-time job, you know what I mean, and do that. Now, we're presupposing that our audience that is primarily watching this is from out of town, because if you're local, you've probably been to a bunch of these places before, and it's not going to be anything new to you. So I'm going to assume that I'm talking to people that are outside of Lawrence County, coming to see their Amish community, the James D. Vaughn, because a museum, because we are the birthplace of Southern gospel music. You know what I mean? So if you're coming here for something, then you probably want to look around for some steak, and this is your video. Also, I cook some control steaks. As you can see behind me, I do this on a Blackstone and on a Traeger grill, okay? And the reason I always put something like a control element in there is because if you just say, this is the best one, you know what I mean, and it's not close to something you can make or something like that, then it tends to make it look more like I'm just making up my own opinion. And even though I am doing that slightly, I do have some control elements that I use to make this particular list. So I'm not going to just put that in there and just expect you to just buy it, all right? So I want to show you some things behind me on the green screen to kind of authenticate my sincerity towards the restaurants that I'm about to tell you about. So now we only tested and used the steaks that we ordered, all right? This isn't a definitive list of everywhere in the county that has anything to do with steak, or else you'd have steak tortillas or, you know what I mean, steak bits or steak this and steak that, and it'd be exhaustive. So we only went to the places that we did and ordered steak and sort of brought you the best ones. Also, we need to say that we needed to put people on the list that had steak all the time. For example, there are some places that had steak, like the Noble Fox. It was only once a month on their brunch menu. So we kind of had to make a little bit of a criteria, because if you only offer something every so often, then it's a little bit hard to put that on the list. So I'm primarily going with some people that I had good luck getting ribeye, of course, that's probably most common, some sirloin, and some filet. Now, there are places like the Brass Lantern that have prime rib. This weekend happened to be, this is Memorial Day, or not Memorial Day, Labor Day weekend that I'm recording this in 2024, so things might change by the time you're watching this. And currently, Hinie's Barbecue is trying some prime rib, you know what I mean? So we don't know if it's going to make it to the menu or not, which means it might not make it to our list, because we want to show you places that have it all the time. So that is kind of getting it out of the way. So we're going to start off kind of at the top to bottom instead of best to worst or something like that, because naturally I'm not a food critic, like I said earlier. So starting off with the Hitching Rail Diner in Summertown. Now, this is a 12-ounce ribeye, got with a baked potato and Texas toast. Now, they're known for their fish plates, all that sort of thing, but they have a really nice seasoned ribeye. And I believe it was a 12-ounce ribeye. Now, Currently, some of these that are on the what we'd call country menu are about $20, and it's because they come with a side and a salad and other things that make them slightly more than some of the Mexican restaurants, which I'm going to get into a little bit. But the Hitching Rail had a really good steak. If you also go down to the Laurel Hill Lake, the same people own the restaurant there. You can also get a ribeye cooked on a grill right there at the lake most of the time. Now, of course, this is seasonal. Once you go past a certain part of the year into the hunting season, it kind of stops, you know what I mean? Because fishing season is primarily the busiest during the summer months. And I don't know if they'll have it all the time. So I didn't mention the lake, even though technically you could get one there. So the Hitching Rail Diner up in Summertown has a really good steak. Also, now of course I put Schaefer Farms in Texas barbecue, but they don't serve steak at all. But they offer steak for people that also want to get something to do on their own grill. And we're going to go through that here at the end also. But you can actually get one of these cooked at the Butterbean Cafe. Now the Butterbean goes in they're different sizes. They're usually 16 or like 24 ounce, sometimes even more. They'll cut them directly for Ed Brown, and you can get, as you can see, a Schaefer Farms steak. That's a local beef manufacturer, you know what I mean, here in Lawrence County. You can get one cooked for you by him. Now he'll run through a tenderizer. He's got a little bit of a wet dry thing going on. I'm not going to give you a secret, it's all right. But he does have a really good, interesting way to make you a tender steak out of one of the places that you'd only way to really get that is to do it yourself. But Ed Brown figured out how to go up there and get a few steaks. Now, I don't think he does it just all the time, but I think he usually keeps some around just so he can provide steaks. And anyway, really interesting. Now, of course, the Butterbean Cafe, you're going to have to check hours before you leave. Typically, they're more open in the winter into the spring. Because so many people have barbecues during the summer months, he kind of tends to close it up sometimes. So depending on when you're here, it will determine whether or not you need to go to the Butterbean or find somewhere else to go because he might be closed. So anyway, I think the Butterbean has a fantastic steak, as you can tell behind me. Going from there, let's see here. And of course, south of the Butterbean is Hinie's Barbecue. Now, keep in mind, whenever you get as a supplier, if you owned a restaurant, you would have a supplier, and you would get different levels of things. Now, there are a few places here in Lawrence County where they have a higher tier, and it's because this is the tier that, say, some of your more like Ruth Chris, you know what I mean? I think the Melting Pot, you know, and some of these other kind of a higher echelon of steak or beef going into these restaurants are a little bit better. Now, of course, you're going to pay more. This is going up around the $50 mark, but you're going to get a phenomenal steak. Now, there's this 14 ounces, and I'll say this. As far as I can tell, and I've had all of them many times, Hinie's Barbecue has the best steak in Lawrence County, all right? What they have is they only let like 3 people even touch them. To even work there, cook the steaks at all, you have to have already been cooking them somewhere really good for a while. They have, now of course I'm not telling you their secret, but I've watched it with my own eyes. As you can see behind me, I spent a lot of time there. There also are place we send people that come in with like a tour bus, you know what I mean? Because they have Venue North, they can seat a lot of people. It's a large place, and I trust the owner's trip and his family because the whole family works there, and they're there all the time. And a lot of times it's the people who own it who cook it for you. So you in the day and age where you know they always say people don't want to work and all that stuff. I get that, but they're going to personally cook for you. So a lot of times it's him or other people that he trusts that make them. They have a wet, dry kind of a combination. So they will start off with this kind of a tenderization process. Then they'll go through with this blend that is, I don't know. They Tripp and Mallory go back behind the scenes and then they make this thing up. So they'll start off with aging it in something in the refrigerator in a solution that makes it kind of like a marinade, all right? Then they'll put this wet on, or this dry, I should say, on it. And then after it absorbs and stuff, then they will coat it with a wet. Then it will go on to the grill. And this grill is kind of designed for something like steak or chicken, to put those lines in. And because it is a higher tier than you can buy, like I say, and it's a 14 ounce, it's got a really good level of marbling that goes in. The fat is pure. Oh, it's just white looking. And anyway, and there's not a lot of fat to it. There's a lot that's been trimmed, and you come away with this really good steak. Now, also, as you can see behind me, people that want to, let's just say it this way. All right, people that have went to Amish country and have got their chairs or their table or something that they ordered, and they want to go sort of celebrate, if you will. Hinie's is the place you would go closest to Amish country to celebrate. Or if you bought something neat in that, sort of top part of Lawrence County, and you wanted to sort of like show off a bit, you know what I mean? I want something nice to remember this by. Hinie's is one of those type places. So it's a nice one that comes in, but they do have the better ones. And he has given me food, and I'm not saying that because he's giving me food I'm making it. No, this is completely off that table. He tends to prefer the other one, I guess, now. All that sort of thing. Different story. But they are a hand-cut steak. He buys them in the big ones and cuts them up. So you might get 16 ounces, just depending on how the knife goes through and all that stuff. His sirloin is also phenomenal. Like I say, I'm primarily a while ago talking about the ribeye. His sirloin, if you're wanting a lesser fat steak, you want a little leaner, thing. He does have more of a center cut, nice sirloin. I think it's also somewhere around that 14 ounce mark. Now, of course, hand cut, so it means it could vary. He tends to, I believe, cut them a little thick just to kind of give you a good deal, all that sort of thing. He's also going to measure that with a meat thermometer. Every single one of these gets a meat thermometer, so he can tell exactly in the center part. So if you order a medium, it's going to come medium. Hardly any steaks ever come back, all right? That's because of he doesn't want it to go away. He wants it to go in your belly. So he wants it to be something that you come away going, that was a really nice steak, and tell everybody about it. So anyway, he has the best ones when it comes to those two. And I believe at the filet level, he has the best filet. It's more of a Western filet. What I mean by that is it's not going to be something with sort of like what I would call an Italian, filet. I'm going to mention the Italian filet, and I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit different when I come up to the 1819, the restaurant, all right? So I would prefer Hinie's when it comes to, if I want more of a Western take on it, say a barbecue restaurant cooking filet. It's an 8-ounce filet cut a certain way, and it's seasoned kind of like what you would a ribeye or something. So it's going to be a little bit more salty, you know what I mean? And it's just going to have a really good flavor if you want that particular flavor palette to your filet. But because sirloins and ribeyes taste a little bit closer than filet does to each other, I tend to kind of protect my filets a little bit, because people that are filet fans, you know who you are. So that's why I want to mention sort of the two when it comes to filet. Now, I haven't tried his prime rib. Like I say, I want to leave it off until he has it more often. One of the things that I would say is a criticism to Hinie's is a lot of times they want to sort of see what works and sticks. So they did have fillets at one time. They didn't sell as good, so they took them plumb off the menu. Then they brought them back, even though they said they wouldn't. And sometimes for brunch, they had an awesome brunch, probably the best brunch. Let me just say that. It was the best brunch in Lawrence County, in my opinion. There was just so much more variety. The things that they had to eat was really good. Now you can't buy any of that. It's all gone, and it just took a lot of people to cook it. It was phenomenal. I tried every dish. Each one of those was just a standalone hit, in my opinion, but because they didn't sell. So if you do want filet and they offer filet, go ahead and get a filet, because they might not have it the next time you go. So anyway, that's Heinie's. So let me go through and talk about something probably a little less popular. All right, now, every single one of our Mexican restaurants is great when it comes to Mexican or Tex-Mex food. Every single one of them has a steak. Also, every single one of them takes a little bit different tact on steak, and it would make this extremely long video. So what I did is I got one from each place, and it was basically a Mexican foods attempt to make something with steak, okay? A lot of times they would have something poured on them, which is great because you go to a Mexican place to get Mexican or Tex-Mex inspired foods. However, there is one a little bit different than the other ones, and that's the one I'm going to mention here, and that's the Fiesta Mexicana. In my opinion, the Fiesta Mexicana has the closest, I guess, steak to the other places I'm going to mention, and that's why I'm going to mention them here. In my opinion, they have the best steak amongst the Mexican restaurants, all right? They happen to get the building that used to be part of the old Chaparral's chain, you know what I mean, or the restaurant, I should say. And that Chaparral's restaurant was a steak place, primarily. Steak, chicken, pork, all that sort of thing. And because Chaparral's left a lot of their stuff, they have it, so that means they can cook you a steak a little bit closer to what Chaparral's would have. So I believe, in my opinion, they have the closest steak to the rest of them in here. So that's why I'm featuring them behind me as having a really good steak. Now, it is the most economical steak. Actually, I think all of them in the Mexican arena are around that $14 mark as of right now. And this one is no different. It came with vegetables on the side and all that sort of thing. And it came in at it's like $13.99. It was a 10-ounce steak, and I'll keep that in mind. The 10-ounce steaks are a little bit different. So I felt like that the Fiesta Mexicana steak was the best of the Mexican places. They have a really nice manager. He'd come out and he'd say, what do you want, boss? And all that sort of thing. Has this little thing going back and forth. Like I say, all the places are really good. I want to do something on maybe the best fajitas and best tacos or best something else, and feature all the different Mexican places, because we have some really good ones, and a new one coming where Stetter's was. Stetter's went out of business before I could make this, so that's why I don't have a Stetter steak. Anyway, let me go on down and talk about the S's. Is the Strikers Steakhouse. All right. Now, Strikers Steakhouse, I would say, oh my, what do I? Because I didn't. I don't get the what's it called? The teleprompter on. I don't have anything. This is just me pushing record and just going. All right. Strikers Steakhouse is a phenomenal steakhouse. All right. And for certain things, I like it better than Heinie's. Like if you get the steak behind me, it's their pineapple steak, or it's like a Hawaiian ribeye. And it has this beautiful glaze. It's a deep glaze. For example, you cut in and you dip your steak in, and you can taste like base notes. It's not just overpoweringly pineapple. It kind of goes and the sauce was kind of made up to meld the steak flavor with this really nice cut pineapple that's also grilled. Do you see the marks on it? They grill, like, who grills the pineapple itself? But it's grilled. It's dipped and grilled, right? I don't know. It's great. Good on you, Strikers. And anyway, it's in the same building as Kingpin Lanes. Of course, if you get to Amish country and it starts raining and you're like, what am I supposed to do? Well, I don't want to just sit around the hotel. You know what I mean? Go to Strikers, get you some bowling going on. It's really nice. Anyway, it's in the same building. You don't even have to move your car. You just sort of go through a door and you're right in there. Anyway, so they have they have the higher tier steak. All right, best I can tell, they're the only two that have, or Heinie's and Strikers have the only two steaks that are in this higher tier echelon. So don't compare somebody that has like a $20 steak to these $50 steaks, because the cow that produces these higher tier steaks it is a better animal. All right, I don't want to say that, and then you think, well, look at their $50. I know that, but they come from places that sort of specialize in really nice, tender, great cuts of beef. So you're buying one of these great cuts of beef if you're coming here. Let me look through my notes just a little bit. And that's why a lot of times you'll see it as market price. But when I went in there and got market price, it was like $45 for the steak, and that's kind of right up there with the Hinie's. They're usually within a couple bucks of each other. And also, our I guess the steaks that I would push out a little bit more than other ones is because they're my favorite. And like I said earlier, this isn't. I'm saying the favorite because of some. I'm saying also some of my favorites because a lot of times people want to know where I eat. You know what I mean? And I love their Hawaiian ribeye. I also love their 8-ounce coffee cured filet. They have it is so tasty. Now, it's going to be a little bit more on that western side, so it's going to be closer to Heine's filet than it is the 1819. So that's going to be what you would want if you just know you want a certain type of filet for you filet buyers out there. Also, we did pair them a little differently. The Hawaiian ribeyes I tend to get with something because it is such a powerful flavor. I wanted like a loaded baked potato. We love the coffee flavor. Okay, this is the coffee flavor with the sweet potato because you can kind of put that nice butter, you know what I mean? It's like cinnamon butter, in there with it. And then when you have that coffee cured filet and you eat that cinnamon with that sweet potato, it makes your mouth happy if you love those flavors. If you're one of those people, try that. Get it with the sweet potato, get it with that cinnamon appley butter, and let that be your side. You know what I mean? Now, they also have a wonderful sirloin New Orleans. Another thing that Strikers is really good for is putting this like etouffee, which has like shrimp and fish, and it's a New Orleans style top to these other steaks, like this sirloin New Orleans. Now, if you want a different take on a steak, that is a phenomenal combination when you put those together. We happen to get ours with broccoli or like a roasted seed, like a roasted sesame or something style. You can see it. And then the asparagus, which is really good. It's this kind of a bolder flavor also that goes really well. So another thing that they can get there is these fried green tomatoes as an appetizer with their homemade house sauce, which is a southern staple. So if you've never had fried green tomatoes, it's a really good appetizer to come before the steaks. Gets you nice and hungry, you know what I mean? I didn't cut into the filet. One of the things that I do, as you probably noticed, is whenever you cut into something and you take that my Panasonic S1 and then you zoom in and you get a good shot of the texture with it cut open. That tells you I'm not lying. You can see it for yourself. The reason I put these on there and these things together is to kind of give you the option. And if you can see it for what came to our table. Now, we also don't, I probably should have said this at the beginning. We do not tell anybody, hey, I'm coming on the phone. Be sure to pick out your best steak because, well, wouldn't that be cheating? You know what I mean? Everybody that would have, the guy's coming. They would get in there and they would dig out the best, and then I would show you what come to our table, and what come to your table might be this, lesser looking thing. I don't do that. I make sure that they don't know I'm coming. I just show up. And that's what I was saying. That's why I have to pay with my own money, because a lot of times they just, some of them don't know who I am, so they don't know not to give me a steak of a certain kind. So that's pretty interesting. So anyway, Striker Steakhouse. If you know you want something on your steak, for example, I believe that they're the best. So if you're a person that's going to cover it with a sauce of some sort, they're probably your best steakhouse. If you want that, I don't want anything else on it. I want the juices and all that sort of thing. That'll make Heinie's your best steakhouse. I happen to like a less coated steak. So what is it going to taste like as it just sits in its own juices? You know what I mean? And that's the steak. I also want a sort of a soft steak. I don't want to sit there and chew. Neither one of these are chew steak, but I feel like the Hinie steak is the best sort of naked steak. And that's why I picked it to be the number one. Because even if you do like sauce, you dip that Hinie steak into anything and it's going to taste phenomenal. But if I had to pick a number 2, or I would say 1A or something, I would say that the Striker steaks, because that you can get things on them that make it a different steak experience, and that sounds the best to you, it might be your number one. So anyway, now I'm going to go on to another place that is phenomenal. Oh, where do I even start with this? Definitely the most beautiful restaurant in Lawrence County. You know what I mean? And the ambiance of this place is intoxifying. You get, and especially as you go upstairs into the lounge area, and you see all this exposed brick, this beautiful bar, and you look around at the art and sort of the Art Deco looking leather couches and all that sort of thing. You know you're in a nice spot, and that is the 1819 The Restaurant. Now, they have the most expensive steak in all of Lawrence County. They sure do. It's about a 24-ounce cowboy cut, which means it has its bone still in the side. It's about $70. Now, this is a kind of place. How do I put it? Now, I would look great. Now, don't get me wrong. I'd go in there with my Brooks Brothers shirt, my little bow tie, my little fedora, and if I haven't popped the question to a woman, or depending on whoever you're dating, you would do that here, all right? This is the kind of place you would get on and, you would dress up, you'd go down, have a wonderful, wonderful dinner. Not only do they make good steaks, they also make a lot of other things that are just great. And sometime in the evening over this French wine, you know what I mean? It's the only places that really have these beautiful French wines and other Italian wine and all this other stuff. Drinks, like just some of the best drinks come out of here. If you're a drinker, I'm a diabetic with an Omnipod 5. So anyway, I would get a certain spot and I would get down on one knee and I'd pop open that ring box, or, I'd do whatever you needed to do to tell somebody that you love them. And this is that kind of place, all right? Now, you don't have to look great. I come in sometimes in jogging pants, even though obviously I don't jog a lot. And anyway, it's a really fantastic restaurant. Leather couches and stuff. You can get all the sort of the Sicilian Italian style of different dishes there. You can also get a hamburger and fries. Kids eat free on Wednesdays as of right now. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's too classy for you, but anyway, it kind of gives that ambiance, the best ambiance. And they have a beautiful cowboy cut ribeye that is soaked in more like an Italian-inspired seasoning. This is going to be a little bit more, I guess, thin. It's going to be wider. It's going to cover more of the plate. And as you cut into this steak, it won't just be running everywhere. It's going to have something like garlic in the background or something in the back that says this is an Italian food, or I guess an Italian take on steak. It pairs really good with a sauce or something, too, if you want to dip. I don't know why it is I put this here. Now, you can save quite a bit of money if you get the 14-ounce ribeye. I think, basically, they're two different steaks because, as you can tell behind me, we also got the 14-ounce ribeye. And the 70-ounce, or the $70, I said 24-ounce ribeye, tasted different. I do a blindfold test almost. If you can sort of close your eyes and then taste it. If you can't tell the difference, it's basically the same steak with the side cut off of it. It didn't taste that way. It might actually be. They don't share secrets with me. But it tasted different. It tasted almost like it was more meatier or something with that cowboy cut, with the bone still in it. I don't know if it made a difference in the marinating, you know what I mean? But it did taste different, and I liked it better. Now, whether or not I liked it $70 for it, I have no idea. But I thought it was a great steak. All right, I'm just going to say it like that. Now, the filet we got was overcooked a little bit. I will say that. So make sure that if you, of course, I don't think anything over medium should be ever done to a filet at all, ever. But it tasted a little bit more like a dry filet, a little bit, you know what I mean? So it's going to have a little bit more, I guess, of its natural flavor. It's not really soaked to take up a lot of the saltier stuff. So if you don't like a very salty filet and you want more of a pure beef, then 1819 is definitely your place. And that's all of them, all right? Ribeye, sirloin, or the 14-ounce or 24-ounce ribeyes. They tasted a little less salty than some of the other steakhouses. And I believe it's because they don't really soak it and do things with it. They more like lightly flavor it a little bit, and then they cook it. So that I thought was really good. Now, I think too, if you're going to be eating steak with somebody that don't really like steak, this is also probably your place. They have a seafood lasagna that's just phenomenal. They have instead of like a pizza, they have like a flatbread. They have these kind of like a dippable, like it's an appetizer, but it's kind of a dippable Bavarian-looking. I forgot, like a pretzel, I guess, is probably the closest thing I could think of. And you eat it, and it's just great. They have a pepper blend. They have a lot of different desserts too. But I just think if you just want an overall restaurant that's actually really good that happens to have steak, that's probably how I would say it. Some of these places, like obviously Stryker's Steakhouse has steakhouse in the name. Hinie's is kind of the same. Their sort of second thing talks about Hinie's barbecue and steakhouse. They have kind of a play on this steak angle where 1819, the restaurant, has a lot of other foods underneath it that's also really good. So I would definitely recommend that one. So let me move on to the next one, which was the Society American Noshery. They have a wonderful 12-ounce ribeye. And it was great. It's probably the saltiest of all of the steaks on our whole list, but it had like this great meaty flavor. I paired it with these, what was it, like Brussels sprouts with bacon. Also these charred root vegetables, you know what I mean? And it tasted phenomenal. That sort of salty caramelization came out in the sides, and oh my, it was one of those things I kind of wanted to order 2 of them. So I don't know why. I was just like, I need another steak and maybe another side. I just wanted more of it. Now, here, of course, you could see 1819 from the Noshery, which is it's right there on the square also. But they have a really good just overall menu. You know, some of the best burgers, some of the best wings, you know what I mean, all that sort of thing. So it's not really a steakhouse per se. It's just an overall really good restaurant. And I'll hit Jason up again. You know, if you watch the pizza thing, I'm going to do it again, Jason. Fix up where you can get the lasagna all the time. There's nowhere that has a classic lasagna all the time. I would love it. I would love that. All, like, you wouldn't believe. My kiddo loves the spaghetti at both places. Both the Noshery and the 1819 in Brass Lantern. But no one has a lasagna that is like what you would expect out of a really good lasagna. You know what I mean? Like a place that keeps it. There are some places they'll do a sheet of it, and it'll only be offered like one day a week or something like that, and you have to kind of go on spaghetti and lasagna day or something. But oh, I don't know what you did, Jason, with that. You had just a really good lasagna. And it just seemed like it went away. And so, yeah, am I a little bit emotional? Yeah, fine. Okay, I said it. And, you know, Jason, this is just me and you watching this, all right? I want you to bring back that lasagna because it was just so good. And the other places don't seem like they want to do it. He would be like the only one. Okay. Retain composure. Get back on our list. Anyway, but Society's a great one. Society's just a really good restaurant. And it has a wonderful 12-ounce ribeye. I think it was about $35, something like that. And then, of course, right now there's a lot of inflation prices and all that sort of thing. So it might have settled down by the time you watch it, all that sort of thing. So it's just indicative of what we've got now. Now, the Brass Lantern is the next one on our list. I think at one time, it was about the only steakhouse. And a lot of people say, well, it's if you look it up, their comments and everything had gotten so bad that they kind of took down their Facebook page, all right? The owners kind of stepped away from managing all the time. They hired a manager. And people say that the quality went down. That is not true. The Brass Lantern and its Legends restaurants are phenomenally good. I used to work at the Brass Lantern, of course, when I was in high school, but it was a great restaurant then. I believe what has happened, and you can tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. All right, this is not in this. This is just me and you talking. What had happened is they were about the only game in town that had a particular echelon of steak, and we got used to it. And we kind of got acquainted. And then we almost had it a lot. And then with these other places, the Hinie's and the Strikers, and when we went out of town, we'd go to a place. It made it not as special. All right? So a lot of people think it went down. No, the thing that's the beautiful thing about the brass lantern is it's not changed since 1988. It has remained rock solid, providing every single dish until now. They took out the salad bar and everybody went nuts. And it was almost like a Super Bowl when they brought it back. Everybody was sharing it and all that sort of thing. And that was just a salad bar. I mean, who gets excited about lettuce? So the Brass Lantern is a phenomenal restaurant, but it's a restaurant. It covers a large group of different various foods. You can get fajitas, and it's on our ribs, the best ribs of Lawrence County. It's on some of our best burgers. A little side note is it's half-price burgers on Saturdays from like 11 to 4. They have beautiful burgers, and they have a lot of dishes that you can't sort of get anywhere else, in Lawrence County anyway. So it's a really good restaurant. Don't judge it based on its steakhouse, okay, ability. So, and it's because they've served sort of the same steaks, but I guess bread and butter, if you will, of the Brass Lantern is it's wide variety. Everybody wants to go there because everybody has a thing that they just love to get. My kid loves their spaghetti. It has these big old meatballs. They gotta have another version of a chicken based spaghetti meal. I guess you can call it like Polo Parmigiano. It's basically the same spaghetti, but with a piece of chicken with cheese over it. It's also really good, phenomenal. So basically, think of it as a restaurant, not really a steakhouse. Okay, so I kind of graded it on that way. Now I will say that when it comes to our steak selections, you get actually a prime rib. It used to be only on the weekends. It's pretty well now offered most of the time. So it's going to be one of those places you can get prime rib at this particular restaurant where you can't any of the other restaurants. So in a way, that's a pro, in my opinion, because prime rib is special to people that love prime rib. And anyway, so you can get it there with everything else. Also, let me just look down through here. Because it's I guess the Brass Lantern kind of started the Legends and the Legends Express and other places that I think a lot of people kind of grade it a little, or they think it's a little bit higher. But what I'm thinking is that they basically matched everything to the Brass Lantern. So all the Legends restaurant kind of use the Brass Lantern as its sort of incubator. So once they kind of got up and going, they just reproduce the Brass Lantern everywhere else. And that's my opinion. Johnny doesn't call me, "Hello, Mike, what do you think about my place?" He doesn't do anything like that. Nobody does. Nobody cares about me. And that's fine because it's all about you guys getting what you want. And that's why I want to say that a little bit about I'm taking up for him a little bit. At one time, we all ate at the Brass Lantern because it was about the only place to get a good steak. You know what I mean? Until these other places started kind of coming around. They didn't change. They didn't just sort of like call everybody up and say, "Help, we got to do something about all these." No, they just stayed in their lane, started just making their dishes just like they've always done, and they've been very consistent. So that's what I would say about them. But they have prime rib, ribeye, sirloin, and filet. They probably have something else, you know what I mean, that I just don't know about. As far as price, they're right up there with everybody else. They're cheaper than our top two, the Hinie's and Strikers. You know what I mean? I'm gonna call it. Okay, I'll say it like that. Hinie's and Strikers is probably our top two as far as steak is concerned because of that higher tier. I didn't like their Hawaiian ribeye at the Brass Lantern as much as I did, but it's also sweeter. It's got a thinner piece of hand-cut pineapple, where the Strikers Hawaiian ribeye looked like it had a jarred or maybe a scent, style. It tasted more like something out of a can and then thrown on the grill, which is fine with me. I'm perfectly fine with that. But the one here at the Brass Lantern looked like it was a little bit more cut, but it was thinner and all that sort of thing. Now, their ribeye and their sirloin I didn't like as much, and the filet is about the same. I didn't really like them in comparison to other restaurants, but there are some dishes I like them more than other restaurants. So Go there whenever you need a restaurant. Say, for example, if you want to go with a large group of people, it's also a great choice because somebody has something there they're going to eat. So that also, I guess, is a criticism of the Brass Lantern, which is nothing to do with the Brass Lantern. It's just that sometimes I find it a little hard to get a parking place. I have to go at odd hours because the place can get a little bit full and crowded, and it's very popular. So I want to say it like that. So that's more of a me thing. I like going in and getting within a group of people that is kind of small, and I can get my food quick and all that sort of thing. Sometimes you have to wait because of its popularity. And it wouldn't be that popular if it wasn't good. So I'm going to take up for Brass Lantern and say that. I'm particular about our restaurants, and it's one of those that's just stood the test of time. It's one of our oldest restaurants. It's been very well established, and it's the only one to incubate other restaurants outside of it. There's not other locations of some of these other places. Pretty much the Brass Lantern is in its own league when it comes to incubating other places, because I have went and ate at the other Legends restaurants, and it's basically eating at the Brass Lantern. It's just as good. It's just as consistent. You know what I mean? So you couldn't do that if you were a bad place. So I'm going to say that the Brass Lantern is a really good restaurant. But as far as steaks are concerned, I don't think they're as good as some of the other places. Now, another place that is phenomenal within, I guess, its local population. It's also very hard to get into at certain times. It'll fill up the side of the road, and that's the Leoma Cafe. Now, the lady that owns it does the cooking, so you're going to get the owner cooking your steak whenever you come in there. So if you go to complain, it's going to be the boss that's going to come out there and see what you're up about. Now, they have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They open during their block, and they have a lot of specials, and the specials are great. And I guess that's why so many people that are local go there. It was one of my last two steaks was them and Preston's, and so I went in there and told them who I was and what I did, and there were so many people that were dressed in overalls and all that sort of thing, just fresh off the farm. They would just go in there and eat, and they had I think it was meatloaf, and it was just phenomenally good looking meatloaf. You had this big plate of food. I think it was under $10. I mean, it was a great deal. So there's a lot of deals. Also, what they do there is they hand bread their own onion rings. So if you're like, well, I don't like that truck type, and we all know what those are, right? We went somewhere and we got onion rings, and it's just come out of a bag, not at the Leoma Cafe. They cut the onions up, they break them up, and they hand batter them, and they hand bread them, and in this oven or this fryer they go. So they got phenomenal food. Also, they have a great steak. It's a 10 ounce. Or about a 10 ounce. I got it with a baked potato. Now they don't put they put everything on the side. They just load it up. But also got this little group of vegetables that's been cut up in this special kind of like a marinade of like Italian dressing and something else, some herbs with it. And it was actually really good. I was eating like raw onions and stuff and loving every bit of it. Didn't burp it up at all. All that sort of thing, and that's what I did with it. And their side salad comes with their own homemade ranch, and that's going to be something that's going to come up in all these restaurants. They kind of went off the dip it out of a jug. They start making their own ranch, so each one will have their own ranch dip or dressing that they're going to put on their side salad. So I thought Leoma's Cafes was a phenomenal steak. Also, if you don't want to pay the $50 spot, the hitching rail, Leoma Cafe, Preston's, you know what I mean, the Fiesta Mexicana, they're going to be into that under $20 mark. So I guess both of them, or you could take your wife or your husband, and you could both have steak for what one steak does somewhere else. So if you're looking for a cheaper steak, that's another reason why I want to do this, is because not everybody can do the more expensive stuff, or they don't want to go into a place that's a little bit more, I don't want to say fashion forward, but it is a lot more geared towards somebody who's going to go out on Friday or Saturday night. You know what I mean? So I want to feature some of those. Now, Preston's restaurant is right next door to the Leoma Cafe, and they work really good together. Now, what I find is I don't work at either one of these, but if I want to go to one or the other, I know I can get about the same food. You know what I mean? And I'll come up through there and I'll find which parking lot has less cars in it, because they're extremely popular. So that's kind of how I pick between the two. But I will say about Preston's steak is that I got a medium ordered, and it came in more like well done. So, and every time we've ever been in there, it's always been a little bit more done than we'd like. So I don't know if I don't know what method they use for checking, but if you do want more of a medium well steak, that's probably going to be your place you want to get it from. Now, they have extremely good fish. They're probably more known for their fish than anything else. A lot of people didn't even know they had steak at Preston's, but they have really good seafood type places. Now, we get ours paired with a loaded baked potato, and I also added peppers and onions on the side here. And of course, their side salad also come with homemade ranch. And there's a lot of good things that they have. They have just phenomenal chicken strips. If you're a chicken strip person and your idea is to get this big chicken strip dipped in, we'll just say honey mustard or something like that, that is a phenomenal choice. So if you've got somebody that also likes steak coming with you, you guys could be very happy at Preston. So anyway, so that's one of the things that I wanted to mention, kind of in closing, because if you go down from there, you know what I mean, you're gonna run into basically the Noble Fox and all them in Loretto. And of course, there used to be an Annie's Beer Garden that had steaks. It closed down years ago. And to my knowledge, the Parker's Place or the Cowpen do not have steak that I know of. It's not on their menu. They don't seem to have any photos of it. You know what I mean? So I didn't include those because it didn't appear that they had them. Now, they might in the future. And if they do, I would definitely go in there and get one to show you guys that. So that's what I wanted to do. Kind of in summation, like I say, the Fiesta Mexicana, the Hitching Rail, Preston's, and of course, probably my favorite of those is going to be the Lioma Cafe. They had a steak that I really thought was great. If somebody blindfolded me, I don't know if I could tell the difference if they just started feeding me, because they seem to be seasoned and marinated about the same. But those are going to be your best 4 choices if you want something that is about $20 or under, all right? When it comes to the about $35 range, we'll say 20 to 30, you want to go between, or I'll just say 30 to 40. We'll just go there. That's where the noshery is going to come in. It's also going to be, I think it might be its own. Well, no, I take it back. It's probably where the brass lantern and the noshery kind of come in. And out of those two, I would prefer the noshery steak. It seemed like it was better than the pretty much anything at the brass lantern when it comes to steak. So I believe if I had to pick between those two, that would be it. When it comes to the higher end, this is going to be the 14-ounce ribeyes of $18.19 the restaurant, Hinie's Barbecue, and Strikers. This is going to be between that 40 to 50 or 40 to 60, I should say, somewhere in there, depending on what you get, filet, sirloin, or ribeye. And like I say, if I had to pick between there, I would say that Hinie's is my first choice. It's definitely the most, to me anyway, it is the best steak place in Lawrence County, just period. It's just good. You just have to try a Hinie steak. It's great. I would say that Strikers I like a little bit more than the 1819. And it's because I tend to favor those Western-style steaks a little bit more than like an Italian restaurant steak. So that's just me, though. If you try them, you might flip that order, all right? I'm not saying it's just the best for everybody, but if you want my opinion, that's what it is. And like I say, I think those are great. Of course, the most expensive is from 1819, the restaurant, a 24-ounce, or I think it's 24. I'm looking at it. It don't say. It just, but it is a cowboy cut, so it might be 30 ounces. It might be somewhere in that echelon, but it is a really good steak. I will say that. It was phenomenal. Like I say, you're seeing behind me, going through there. So I think that's, I'm kind of going through there and just kind of looking, you know what I mean, making sure. Like I say, the Strikers also has, I didn't mention it a while ago, I mentioned it a little bit, but they had a fantastic steak that had the etouffee on it. So they also have a New Orleans fish, salmon etouffee and everything. That's also really, really, really good. Now let's talk about if you wanted to, I think that's it. All right. Yeah. Let's go through this a little bit. Now, if you want to cook your own steak, all right, say for example, I got my own grill, I got my own thing going. Let's talk about a few places you can get your own meat so you can cook your own steak. And I'm featuring these particular places. It's not the only ones. It's just, it seems like when I look around, I want to go get something. I don't want to spend a lot of time messing with it. I want to just get it and come back. And I could do that with the ones I'm about to mention. And of course, that is from Bare Bones up in Etheridge. They have it's a butcher, you know what I mean? He cuts his own things, and he can cut you up some steaks depending on what you want. So if you want a 32-ounce ribeye, I don't know. Say you went to the Amish fab shop or fab and machine, and you got one of these big burn pits, you know what I mean? And you said, "All right, I want to get all my buddies, and we're gonna get these big old cowboy cut things, and we're gonna cook out, and we're gonna be manly men." And you can go to Bare Bones, get your stuff all cut up into these big things. And I think you can do that at all these places, but you know, I know you can do that here, and you can get these nice steaks. They also do a lot of deer. They open up in September. There's different places where they close just down, so you're gonna have to go on their Facebook site and make sure they're open, message the owner, all that sort of thing, and he'll get you all set up. Now, Pete's Country Meats down in Loretto, it's basically like on 101 leaving town. And they have, well, you're surrounded by the cows you're going to see on the inside. They're just not there yet. They have a full-time butcher that butchers things, and you can go in and just sort of point around. You get bacon and pork and ribs and all kinds of other stuff. And in all these places, you kind of can, but they have a kind of a large supply of meats that you can get there at Pete's Country Meats. Been around a long, long, long time. Of course, Schaefer's Meat Market and Texas Barbecue up in Summertown. They have their own cows. They get them slaughtered and bring back. They're really big on anti-pesticides, no preservatives, and all that sort of things that's in there. And they have a really good quality steak. Like I said, you can get that same steak cooked a lot of times from the Butterbean Cafe. But if you want to do it yourself, you can go in there and pick you out 1, 2, 10, however many you want, and steaks of different types. You can also pick out some exotics like alligator and ostrich and some wild boar or elk, or you can buy a lot of different things. They have Gulf shrimp. Like, who does that? You know what I mean? Gulf shrimp flown up here, you know what I mean? And of course, Schaefer's Happy Hollow down in Alabama, so they have their kind of a supply of shrimp. So you can get a lot of different things and make you up just a really good, you know, supply of food for you and a bunch of others if you want to do it yourself. Now, also, I think Hinie's Barbecue does their own meats if you ask them. I'm also going to put in here that Bowers Farm, which is probably a name you don't know very much now, they probably have the most clean of all the steaks. I think not only are they grass-fed, grass-finished, you know, and all that sort of thing, but there's no antibiotics, there's no shots, there's nothing. It goes from the field to the slaughterhouse, and it gets cut up and all that sort of thing. Now, that's where you're going to have probably your most cleanest of all the steaks. And, of course, like you say, you're going to have to do it yourself as far as cooking it, not the other part. They cover all that stuff. But it's just a fantastic place to get top quality beef. You know what I mean? They have eggs, and they got a bunch of other stuff that you can get from Bowers Farm, and you can go visit them right there on Waterford Road and all that stuff. Now, I would suggest kind of getting them at the, what is it called, the farm market day. They set up, and you can say, hey, I'm going to be there, and then they can just meet you, and you can take care of the payment and whatever else you need to do with them, and you can buy just whatever they bring to the sale. Now, they sell out, you know, so you want to kind of get there early at 9 a.m. and get in there and all that sort of stuff. So Bowers Farms is a phenomenal place. And I think that's, the other one is Piney Branch Livestock. Now, they set up primarily at the Lawrenceburg Farmers Market on Saturdays, but you can go on their website and you can put in an order. Now, I think they have a mix. It's like grass-fed and grain to a certain place, because if you haven't had a grass-fed, grass-finished steak, for one, you're missing out, I believe. But it is a little bit more beefy. It's got a flavor. It tastes more, people say gamey, but it's a little bit more cow in there, if you know what I mean. that grain finishing, that 60-day grain period. The reason they don't go too far over it because it'll kill the cow, which should tell you something. But as that, or best I can understand. Now, if you're a beef person, put down there what I'm talking about. But that grain feeding area puts on a lot of bulk to them, which makes that marbling. So if you want that to carry the seasoning, you know what I mean, that's your route. But they have I think, a really good blend between grass feeding and grass finishing that makes for a really good steak. And you can go to their farm and you can check it out. They have a bed and breakfast and all that sort of thing. So that's them. Of course, I wanted to include them because some people don't like going out. I want to say this a little bit. I know it's expensive. Like, it cost me a fortune, as you can tell behind me, to do all this. And I didn't show these because I'm not very good at cooking my own. Well, I don't have a lot of time also to cook my own steaks. And plus, you know who you are if you're wanting to cook your own steak. Now, I think a little side thing that I would put on the end of this video, was coming to an end. If you watched this far, thank you so much, is to buy one of these higher steaks and then get one of these steaks off our list here. You know, Bare Bones, Schaefer's, Pete's Meats, Piney Branch, you know, at Hinie's if they got it, Bowers Farm, you know what I mean? And then see if you can outcook our top ones, you know what I mean? Say, I want to make a steak even better than that Hinie's steak. You know what I mean? And then go on our Facebook site and then message me or something like that and show the two. Take a picture of each, you know what I mean? And then we'll post it and we'll have like a little thing going, right? I just think that'd be interesting to see if we can, cook ourselves some of this really nice meat that we can get from some of these local providers, because we're an agrarian society here in Lawrence County. It's more farm, you know, it's one of the things that makes our charm, right? Is sort of our past and stuff with our farming and, all that sort of thing. So anyway, this has been Mike with the Visit Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. And I hope you guys enjoyed the best of steaks in Lawrence County video. Now, of course, if you've got a place I forgot or I didn't mention, you know what I mean? Because there is some places I didn't mention simply because I felt their steak kind of fell outside of what we're doing. And of course, there'll be some new places that'll open up that I didn't feature because they didn't open at the time or closed down, like in some of these cases, before I could make this particular video. So anyway, so this has been my choice of how I want to present the best steak. Now, whether or not it's your best, I have no idea. So go over to our Facebook site where you can watch or see some of our other posts. Be sure to check out more of our stuff here on YouTube. Now, if you don't mind, what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you've seen several of our videos, I would love for you to go ahead and subscribe. If you love me and you love all the stuff we do, go ahead and ring the bell. If you haven't already subscribed, ring the bell. Now, if you haven't seen us for a while, this is only the first time you've ever seen us, then don't. I'm going to say that. Yeah. When was the last time a YouTuber said don't do that? I would love for you guys, or any of you actually, to go down just below here, click on our name where it says Visit Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, and it'll go to another page, our channel, and you'll look at the video tab. Click that video tab and see if there's some other video that you would love to watch even more than this one. For example, we do a lot of these kind of best of type videos. We did one on pizza, did one on ribs and burgers, and just a lot of things coming up. You know what I mean? So be sure to check us out and watch for us, and maybe we're going to talk about the food you love the most. You know what I mean? So anyway, hopefully I'll see you guys in that next video. Anyway, this has been Mike from the Visit Lawrenceburg, Tennessee channel, and hopefully I'll see you in that next video. Bye-bye.